Breaking the law, one meal at a time, feeding the homeless.
It is morally wrong to make it a crime to give food.
A Houston man who feeds the homeless because of his faith is suing the city, challenging the established charitable feeding ban. The often debated ordinance has banned sharing food in public groups of more than 5 people without city permission since 2012.
The city says you can give food to 5 people, not 6. What are you supposed to tell the 6th person? I met my quota today?
The city wants to dismiss Philip Paul Bryant's lawsuit.
That's a crime? What does this world come to? It's a sad day whenever trying to prevent a fellow human from starving is a crime.
The city says the ordinance aims to curb trespassing and littering, both of which were already prohibited in the municipal code prior to the passing of the ordinance. While some Houstonians are in support of the lawsuit,
I really hope he wins his case, and I really hope they lift those sanctions so we can be able to give more to the needy.
So if you're willing to help more than 5 homeless people, you should be able to do that.
Some even challenge the city's support of their citizens.
The city isn't going to take care of their homeless people. As their people, somebody got to take care of them. So why can't we take care of them?
A question Houstonians will continue to ask as long as the ban remains.
Feeding rocks. It should not be a crime to feed the homeless. Feeding rocks. A good Samaritan shouldn't be punished for acts of kindness. Feeding rocks. Because it's more crime to turn your back on a starving person. Feeding rocks. You shouldn't go to jail for sharing food. Feeding rocks. You can't in good conscience let a hungry person starve. Feeding rocks. Help us legalize charity. Go online and sign the petition. www.feeding.rocks. Feeding rocks.
Hi, this is Eric Dick, and I think it's important that you know your rights. If your homeowner's insurance company has denied or underpaid your claim, you have the right to hire an attorney. You have the right to call me for free consultation at 833-7-RIGHTS. That's 833-7-RIGHTS. Don't let your homeowner's insurance company take advantage of you. Call me today at 833-7-RIGHTS.
Has your homeowner's insurance claim been denied or underpaid? Call Dick Law Firm at 833-7-RIGHTS.
We're getting ready to go live in moments.
By saying he might take Tesla private. I'm Roger Stern, Fox News Radio. From the Emporia Diamonds and Design Traffic Center. Delays around the downtown area as you move northbound on the Gulf Freeway from Telephone past 69. Also heavy from I-10 down past the split with 288. And you also have some traffic on the outbound side of the North Freeway from 410 up to Tidwell. I'm Stephen Foss in the 24-hour traffic center.
This report is brought to you by Office Depot Office Max. If your back-to-school shopping list is testing your budget, the answer is shopping at Office Depot Office Max. From pencils to laptops and everything in between, you'll find low prices all summer long online, on their app, or in-store at the place that's serious about supply.
Houston, Texas. There's a new sheriff in town when it comes to buying cars. GiveMeThem.com. If I don't need a CarMax offer, I'll send you a check for $100. Period in the store. Don't let your car. Opinions provided on the Eric Dick Show are for informational purposes only and not for the purpose of providing legal advice. You should contact your attorney to obtain advice with respect to any particular issue or problem. The opinions expressed on the Eric Dick Show are that of the hosts and guests and do not reflect the opinions of this station or iHeartMedia.
When you've got big problems, you need to have a big, you need Eric Dick, homeowner insurance lawyer and trustee for the Harris County Department of Education. This is the Eric Dick Show.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on the very first ever Eric Dick Show. Exciting with yours truly as guest. I have my wingman, Chris Carmona.
Hello, hello.
Another fantastic attorney in the Houston area, and we are going to talk about a lot of really exciting stuff. I know, I really get excited when I talk about homeowners insurance.
I know you do, man. And, you mentioned homeowners insurance, and, it's hard not to mention the end of August and then to think of the end of August last year we had with Harvey.
Oh, how can I forget Harvey? Oh, the storm that overwhelms me. Let's start talking about Harvey, because it was an interesting time in Houston last year. We're talking, and this is almost, I think tomorrow is the anniversary. Yeah. I think one thing, if we're just talking straight up with Harvey, that people need to know that a lot of people don't understand is if you do have I'm going to start going lawyer here, so you guys are going to have to forgive me. I'm going to start.
It is a legal show.
It is a legal show. I'm going to start dropping information that's pretty important. So if you have a flood insurance policy, I commonly refer to it as NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program. It's really important that you file your proof of loss by tomorrow. Well, actually not tomorrow, by Monday, which would be the 1-year anniversary. If you've already filed proof of loss, no big deal. But if you haven't filed a proof of loss, so let me kind of back a little bit. If you were flooded by Harvey, if you have any property damage that was related from the storm of Harvey last year, they probably want to take your advice pretty seriously right now, because there's a lot of people that have been hurt by this financially. And it's been a long process, with FEMA not being responsive as we thought they were going to be, with the city, with different charity organizations. Some people just have no help coming to them, right? And so if they need legal assistance, what is the pathway that they should have been following? And it's not too late to still go on and get this done by the deadline of the 1-year anniversary, right? For flood, if you're talking wind, if you're talking other stuff, it's different. But for flood, if you have a dispute as to your loss, it's pretty much Monday's the deadline to file your proof of loss, and you absolutely have to file proof of loss. After you file the proof of loss, you can go back, you can dispute it, you can whatever, you can have your fight, but you have a 1-year deadline. It usually is 30 days or 60 days, but they extended it to 1 year. So you have to file that proof of loss if you have a dispute with your flood insurance policy. Now, if it's there's a lot of other things that happened with Hurricane Harvey that we could talk about, but I just really wanted to emphasize, and I'll probably emphasize that a bit with that 1-year proof of loss, because not many people are talking about it. A lot of people don't understand it, but you can get that form online for the proof of loss, but it has to be filed within 1 year. I just wanted to say that a lot so people, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's really important because you lose all your claims.
Now, can they find that form at the Dick Law Firm website?
I imagine they could. If I don't really do flood insurance claims very much. I do a few of them because I typically do first party insurance with my firm. If they called me or messaged me, I'd point you in the right direction. But it's not really, I'm not trying to get business from this at all. In fact, I don't really want the business. I'm just trying to provide basic information that people should know. I'd hope they know, and they don't. But it's just not explained enough at the 1-year proof of loss.
And no one's going to highlight this and promote, come and file a claim by Monday. So it's a good thing that you're actually here today telling all the listeners about this 1-year deadline to make sure that they do get that proof of claim in if they do have one before the deadline, correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's only for the flood insurance policies. The windstorm and all that is a completely different beast. It's completely different type of stuff. And we could, naturally, I guess we could talk about the windstorm a little bit. And I'll talk about insurance so I'm blue in my face. Again, it's horribly exciting stuff. People live on Facebook see the face I'm making. Okay, so the windstorm, that's interesting. There was a lot of, whenever Harvey hit, there was maybe those that were here. Remember, there's a number of little tornadoes that tagged along all over the city, north side. Right after Harvey, I physically inspected a couple of buildings, and I was kind of amazed by the amount of wind damage. Where you had one building where the roof was torn off, where they flooded both ways, from bottom up and the top down. And you see a lot of that in Houston. And what's sad, just from my own personal experience, is a number of insurance companies that just take this hard position that there just wasn't any wind damage at all, that Harvey was just a water event, and that's all it was. It's only flood. It didn't involve there were no winds, and it's just not true. And it just simply isn't true, unless the stuff I've seen firsthand, and many of other people have suffered with the windstorm and the wind damages and the tornadoes that came through. So it's just sad that that's kind of the state of affairs. I don't want to dwell on this whole insurance too much.
And that's the thing. I mean, as we approach the 1 anniversary of Harvey, I mean, there's still a lot of families out there that haven't been given the assistance needed. And so, it's always right to make sure we remember those who have lost items. And, there were some lost lives in Harvey as well. One of Houston's most tragic events overall. And so when families are trying to rebuild their life, a year later, there's still things that need to be done. It's a good thing we have lawyers like Eric Dick there to make sure that they can advocate for people and for families to make sure that they can get their house back in order, even as we approach the 1 year mark.
But it was just more than windstorm and flooding. You had a number of other factors kind of going on. You had the chemical plant that exploded that wasn't really expected, and that caused a lot of damage, a lot of craziness.
A lot of collateral damage, just from the floods, the winds, everything that's associated with a catastrophic event. So Eric B. Dick, Chris Carmona, we'll be back after the show break.
Thank you guys so much. I didn't hear the trigger. I guess
when she said 30 seconds, I'm like, oh. I didn't hear the music till around 35.
I heard. Look at her. That's okay. We'll figure it out.
Were we okay? Is our volume all right? Tone? Okay.
Oh, can you hear okay? Oh, can you guys hear okay?
Yeah, you get a thumbs up.
It might be that you have an honest disagreement or an honest mistake. But you don't want to go
all right, so we come back from this break.
You need to call Top.
What is that, Phillips? I didn't think
they have a local.
All of our phones are
recording
something.
Oh, Philip's calling right now.
Is he? And frankly,
you're Philip?
If you go $10,000
okay. Hey, Chris, go ahead and get Philip.
I'll be right back.
Chris, come down.
713-489-7433. 713-489-7433. What's at stake here? You're dealing with the IRS. Think about it. Are you going to go that alone? No. Call.
I hope I didn't throw you off.
No, I'm okay. I didn't mind at all. I get lost in just blabbing.
Oh, you're fine.
24,
I'll give you a 30 second mark and then a 10 seconds. And so I can just do it with my hands if it's better for you, or I can do it in your ear.
My ear's better because I'm more distracted with all the information.
Understandable.
That means you okay?
No, I'm disgusted that you just sexually assaulted me.
Oh, well, in that case, my name is Brian Williams.
No, it isn't. You're lying. Just like Brian Williams does. Except you're not Brian Williams. I knew I should have gotten that concrete sidewalk fixed.
Sounds like someone should have called Southern Concrete Raising. Southern Concrete Raising is Houston's finest leveling and raising specialist. They fix concrete with no gimmicks. Don't let that crack in your sidewalk create a legal problem for you just because you were too busy to get it fixed. My friend Ty Strickland can send someone over to your property free of charge to give you a quote on your concrete. You don't even have to be there when they come by. They'll take care of everything. Find them online at southernconcreteraising.com.
Plug it over here.
It's Mike from 50 Plus. If you haven't taken a look lately at the UT Health Science Center Consortium on Aging website, you need to do it. They freshened it up. There is so much information.
Back. Sorry about that. Dumped down on the side.
People who are focused on our care, on geriatric medicine. I'm not geriatric yet, but hey, I'm old.
Where you gonna sit it? You gonna sit over there? Oh, we're plugging over
UTH.edu/aging.
So I just discovered puzzleme.com. Started out as the jewelry department at Home Consignment Center, and now their entire jewelry collection. One of my rings is there as well. That's on dazzleme.com. From the big name.
All right, so we'll transition. We'll talk about
to the unique
talk about the
Still talk about Harvey. We can talk a little bit more about Harvey.
Yes.
I know people on my Facebook want me to talk a little bit about Tia, which is a big mess itself. And I know they want me to talk a little bit about Beto and Cruz, which is a really fascinating thing. But
2 points, 4 points close.
I think Cruz could lose that. Cruz really.
Sponsor lots of stuff with the country club so we can bring in.
So, give us some feedback what you think right now. It's our first live segment ever. I'm there. Myself, Eric Dick. We just got a new guest in today. Philip Paul Bryant just walked in the studio. So, but some comments, man. Let us know how we're doing. What do you want to hear? We're talking about Harvey a lot today and going back to school. We'll throw a little bit of politics in at the end. Or somewhere where we can fit it. Send us our questions. We'll give a call-in number in a minute. I can call up here.
On KPRZ 950.
Okay. All right. Am I on? Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right. Oh, so exciting. We're back. Back for more. Couldn't get enough.
Welcome back to the Eric Dick Show on KPRC 950 AM. Eric, so when we left off, man, we were talking about Harvey and its devastation. And just so we make sure we have everybody on the same page when it comes to the flood claims, they can go to FEMA.gov and actually pick up the application.
Yes.
Correct?
And it's a proof of loss. Its deadline is Monday. It's 1 year. It was extended to 1 year. That's just, I know we've talked about that a lot. It doesn't hurt to say it again. But, something else to talk about is we're going with Harvey and all that. So TWIA, Texas Windstorm Insurance Association, which is kind of a nightmare in itself. There's been a lot of problems with TWIA, to be fair, since its conception. This isn't the first time there are big problems with TWIA. TWIA is basically the last resort insurance company. It's government funded. It's for people off the coast, Galveston, Brazoria County, Corpus Christi, right off the coast. So whenever Harvey hit, it primarily did hit people that had policies with Texas Windstorm. I bring this up, the problems that Texas Windstorm has had in the past. So whenever Hurricane Ike was going on, they got in a lot of trouble. They basically decided that they just weren't going to pay anything. Basically, I know that's probably abbreviating too much.
And it's only gotten worse since that time, right? I mean, we keep passing some laws to make it harder for homeowners to actually recover. And TWIA is a big part of that, correct?
And then we wonder why the race between Beto and Ted Cruz is so close. And I don't get me wrong, I'm voting for Ted Cruz, but we wonder why it's so close whenever we pass laws that are anti-consumer, that are anti-people.
Yeah, there seems to be a trend to hurt the little guy over and over again. And then we have these events. We had an Ike, and then we have a Harvey. We got to be careful about who we're actually protecting, because we start hurting all the homeowners and the consumers. It's just going to be a long road for everybody who's in power right now.
It's not going to be a long road. We're going to lose. I mean, and Ted Cruz should be completely scared, and he is acting scared as he should be, because you've got Beto. And I'm not saying Beto's a better candidate, because he's not. But what's going on with Beto is he has a good message. He's saying no more corruption. I'm done with corruption. And he really, I don't know about that, but he's saying no more corruption. I'm not taking PAC money. He's getting some movement, and he really could.
I mean, he's not taking PAC money, but he's taking all kinds of foreign money outside the great state of Texas. But yeah, I mean, great point. I mean, especially at the federal level, when we have these natural disasters, we turn to the federal government to do the emergency aid. And did we see anything put forward recently or last year, they're actually going to protect these consumers. Is Beto on a campaign on that? Is Cruz going to be able to recover from that? Is he going to make that a huge campaign issue between now and November?
It absolutely could happen. I mean, I don't think Ted Cruz is going to, and it's unfortunate. I don't think Ted Cruz is going to embrace consumerism. I don't think he is. I wish he would. I think it would help him. I don't think he is. I hope that more people, Republicans at the local level, embrace consumerism, because it's their constituents. It's literally their constituents. And whenever they side with special interest, big money, big business over individuals, I mean, what do you expect? They're going to vote, especially with the Hurricane Harvey. So you had a new law that went in place, like literally 2 weeks or the week of Hurricane Harvey. I think it might have even been maybe a couple days of Hurricane Harvey, 542A. And so this
put the Texas Insurance Code 542A, right?
Yes, Texas Insurance Code 542A. And this was, and I'm gonna give you some quotes, because quote, greedy lawyers were filing claims, and that this is the rationale, because greedy, evil lawyers were filing claims, even though they're filing on behalf of their people they're hired for. But lawyers only good whenever actually need one, right? And that's a joke. So these big bad lawyers,
but greedy trial lawyers, got to make sure you put that in there. Greedy trial lawyers.
Yeah, because considering that there's more lawyers on the Republican side than there are the Democrat side, it's just nonsensical. It's just all that is. It's just big money being funneled from special interests for propaganda, and it's corruption, and there's a lot of stuff going on with that. But so you had that being pushed. You had the law changed, where basically it's difficult. You have to have a high level of precision when you're making your demand letter. If you're not perfectly right, you lose your client's right to recover attorney fees. So guess what happens? It's not hardly any lawyers are interested in the cases. It's a handful of them. I do those cases, but not a whole lot of attorneys do those cases. You have a market that's needed. You have a bad storm come through, and you have a whole bunch of people upset, and they're upset at they're upset a lot of things. But this new law that got pushed by Republicans, that doesn't help. It doesn't help, especially in this year when you have a whole wave coming from Donald Trump. You have a whole national wave being pushed. It doesn't help.
It's the resentment. It's the anti-alt-right movement this year. And we have people, especially in Harris County and the Houston area and Galveston, remembering Harvey and remembering that the effect it still has on them. They're going to remember that in November. Who's helped them over this past year? Was it Republicans or was it Democrats? Or was it neither?
Of course they are. And I'll tell you, just on a positive, because I'm a positive guy. I've been really impressed with Jack Mormon. Jack Mormon, on the local level, our Republicans some of them are really, really good. I imagine there's some there are some that are bad too, but there's some that are really good.
We got rid of some of those in the primary, right?
Yeah, some extremely corrupt judges, and there's a lot of that going on. We got rid of that, and we're still working. I know we've got, and I'm just going to say, we got a drunk chairman on behalf of the Harris County Republican Party that we got to deal with, but that's not either here or there now. Now what we got
on liquor or drunk on power?
I think it's both. It's both. He barely won. It cost $400,000 for him to win that race. Whenever I think his challenger spent maybe $5,000.
Maybe $5,000.
Yeah. So I mean, if you look at the dynamics, it's interesting. But I kind of don't want to dwell on that. Let's go. I know we do have a lot of stuff going on because it's back to school, and we got a fantastic guest that we're going to talk to, Philip Paul Bryant.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor to be here with some good people. Mr. Eric Dick, congratulations on the broadcast, Mr. Chris Cremona. I think this is a well put together show. I think it's really great that you guys are on air, giving people legal, I don't know if you're allowed to call it advice or legal direction, for lack of a better word. And so kudos to you guys for taking time out of your day. I know you guys have a million things to do. But thanks for doing the show. Your listeners will be very well pleased and very well educated as a result of that. And as you guys know, coming up on the 1 year anniversary of Harvey, you guys know that for the last year, some listeners don't know, for the last 9 years, Eric Dick, along with other sponsors and underwriters, have made it possible in the Fifth Ward area to be able to give away up with 500 or 600 backpacks of school supplies each year. And this year alone, we're well past that. We're almost at 900 backpacks.
900 backpacks.
Supplies. And this is a direct result of charitable giving of Mr. Eric Dick, his other colleagues, some of the judges, Judge Sherry Dean, Judge Roy Moore.
Yeah, don't be shy. Phil, don't be shy. Let everyone know who these people are to put this thing together.
Alicia York. There's a dozen or so judges who, and just for the record, I want to go on record of saying this, they're not going to get votes from 12-year-old African-American kids in Fifth Ward.
No.
So it's not a political thing. It's not something they do to try to boost their credentials. They do it because they care about others, they care about the kids, and they understand that they're making an investment in lives of young people. A kid over in Fifth Ward or Cashmere area may very well be the next Mark Zuckerberg or the next Chris Brown or Michael Jackson or LeBron James. And so
they could have used somebody other than Chris Brown. We don't want any domestic violence. But you say that though, and if you listen to
that they're talented, that's the route I was going with.
But if you listen to the names you repeated back in terms of the donations, in terms of the judges, a lot of those are family law judges in Harris County,
Absolutely.
Great family law judges, and I think for them, you hit right on the dot is they don't do it for votes. They do it because they see the litigants day in and day out, every week, every year, coming through the courtrooms, and a lot of the times it's from families that are broken or of not a high value or not, in terms of their financial capital, their financial assets. And they see the effect of not having the proper tools in the home available, whether it's a pencil or pen. We got to make sure we're equipping the kids properly, and that's what Philip Paul Bryan has been doing for the last 9 years at the Island Hope Church with his back to school drive.
And it's just amazing drive. We're going to take a break, guys. Thank you so much. This is Eric Dick, and we got Phil Paul Bryan as a guest, and we'll see you shortly. Thank you guys so much.
First of all,
Philip?
The Huckleberry Show and our entire station.
You gotta do to this. I'm true to this.
It's a good transition, man.
We're going to have y'all turn on your mics so we don't have any chatter if we're not ready yet. Do you know what I mean? So you see your on button right there? Yes. So whenever you're ready to go, hit it on.
So right here?
Yeah, coming back from the break?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yours is right over there. There you go. And then yours is right over there. Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Okay. So it's off right now.
It's off right now. So whenever you're ready to go.
Cool.
Okay.
How's it sounding?
Great. Sounds really good. Yes. Have you done radio before?
I played with them. My brother's an on-air personality.
Oh, cool. All right.
So I played with them. I used to. I haven't done probably 10 years.
Comes back. Absolutely. Sounds good.
It's free. 877-717-PTSD. You've got lots of
So if my brother's listening, constructive feedback.
You name it, and they all use fuel
Later on, not right now.
What's going on, Rose?
Also create deposits that
Oh.
gas mileage. Gum removes these scummy carbon deposits.
So we're about, all right, we're at the halfway mark. So Philip, we're going to come back out the break.
Today. To 647.
We transition back out over after he's done with the segment. Transition back over to Harvey. Now, this time,
I got you.
I've also talked to, he brushed in some really great judges I'd like to talk about. I think Sherry Dean, he really is tough. Sherry's really good. I'd like to talk about Sherry. Sherry's really just, to be fair, if more Republicans did that, it wouldn't be Sweet County.
Yeah, because Dean and Moore have been doing it from the beginning, right? Or almost the beginning.
No, actually, first year.
Yeah.
Eric,
2010.
Judge Shooting, Judge Moore.
713.
Ask Chris Daniels, but he comes in and out sometimes.
489.
OCD?
What's it?
Let me take my face off the camera.
Think about it.
He tries.
Oh,
We also talk about, I don't think we need to talk about the department. We can, but
Hundreds of dollars by
I think it's
taking
necessary.
MS
I don't think it's necessary.
Oh, but we put up the bond vote today.
That's really important.
Transition.
Bond vote's really important.
Because that's happening right now. It ends at 7. So you heard this say when they gave us the countdown, we're going back in. When you hear the music start playing back in, it's breaking in.
And we push the button.
Hit the on button. We go back on his mic.
I got it.
It's coming back in a while ago. So we started to say, and we're back.
During the off-season,
So we'll say that. We can lead in, and we're back.
Yeah.
police violence or whatever the hell it is.
Make sure you get the show's name, like you're saying, Harry Dick Show.
Yeah.
So if they're not listening on air, they're
We
listening.
can take callers too.
Yeah.
I'll take some callers. Maybe we'll do another segment. And maybe we'll do half a segment and take calls.
We'll go back to every other the backpack area, all the list of what they have there. So the kids they can bring their school playlist and go shopping. Yeah. So make sure you tell them other than they say everything else they have. Tell the kids to bring their paper and their little list. They can mark it off and make their supplies. And then I'll tell everybody how I just spent so much money. I'm gonna go turn it and then go back.
How much your research was going?
So like 150 on school. I'm about to go get my for my receipts.
Yes. He never brings the girls.
KPRC on iHeartRadio.
And we're back for more. Eric Dick with my show, talking about Hurricane Harvey, talking about going back to school. We have a special guest, Philip Paul Bryant, who does every year Backpack to Fifth Ward with some of the most amazing people that help him.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, did we announce that he was world-renowned author, Philip Paul Bryant?
Y'all forgot to announce
that.
that.
We forgot that
Y'all
part.
forgot to announce that.
Philip Paul, what's the book you have? What's the latest book you have out right
It's
now?
called Death of a Community, How the Church, the Police, and Facebook Are Shaping Our Future. I'm actually working on another piece. I hope to get it released by mid-December. And it's going to be talking about hurricane preparedness, things you can do. Actually, national disaster preparedness. So things to do in case of hurricane, tornadoes, terrorist attack, school, active shootings. And so I'm actually going to be working with Attorney Eric Dick on that book. And so we hope to have that out because it's not about just trying to get it out right before hurricane season. So we want to make sure we have everything in there because on a regular basis, we need to make sure that we're prepared and we're preemptive on protecting our homes and our families. And so I'm really excited about that. One other thing I want to make mention of is tomorrow, we mentioned the back to school, the 9th annual. It's going to be tomorrow at 12 noon. It's going to be at Island of Hope Church at 1505 Greg Street. And that's in Houston, Texas, right there on the corner of Lyons and Greg. And you go over one other block and you'll see the big Zone Church, the Island of Hope Church, Bishop Bryant, the whole team there. And you'll see some judges, unlike we usually will see them in a robe, in the court, super official. Judge Moore comes there in his shorts. Judge Dean comes there with her grandkids, and Mr. Lance, her husband, volunteers. We still need volunteers, but a lot of times people from their actual court coordinators, stuff like that, actually come to the event and volunteer. They don't pay for this. No one gets paid for it, but it's an investment in the kids and an investment in the community. And also, we have some pretty good entertainment. Because the goal is to not just give the kids backpacks, because you can just form a line in the park somewhere and hand out backpacks. But the goal is to bring elected officials, people who may be considered role models in our communities, and have them all saying to the kids, it's important to stay in school, it's important to get good grades, and we're here, we got your back. So we have a talented, we'll have step teams there, we'll have karate teams performing.
And you got manicures and
manicures and haircuts, free haircuts, because we want to encourage the kids to no excuses, right? Everyone's on your side. You got everything you need. We're going to make sure you look good. And so we're super excited about it. This is year 9, so Eric Dick is officially has hood credentials.
He has tenure in the hood now.
He has a hood pass. I come to the Fifth Ward.
I get my pass to Fifth Ward because I got their back and I got their backpack. Yeah, I want to talk because
that was good.
I do like branding. You have to admit that. But Sherry Dean, I've been so impressed with everything she's done with the backpack to Fifth Ward. She has put in a lot of effort on this. In fact, she called me, and she didn't call me. She messaged me, Eric, you better donate this time. Yes, Judge, I'm donating. Yes, Judge. She really takes this personal, and it's kind of amazing seeing her there. She knows the kids. She goes and checks with them every year, makes sure they're doing good. And it's really, I'm going to have to say that Sherry Dean is one of the role models, at least in the Republican Party. She should be, because if more people were acting how she acts, and she's doing it in all sincerity. There's nothing but sincerity. But if more Republicans actually cared in the local level, maybe it wouldn't be a swing district. That's my humble opinion.
When you go into a courtroom, her big thing is family matters. Just saying, and she lives that motto. She lives that mantra because everything she does in the courtroom and outside the courtroom is always the better the families and better the kids. And so,
one other point about Judge Jean, she has a huge heart, and so some of you may not know this, but this past Sunday, her mom actually passed, and I know that her and her family was out in, I believe it was Lufkin this weekend, dealing with that. But when I tell you, in the middle of that family coming together and needing to take care of that, she was still calling and texting every day. She's not doing it for show. She really cares. There's no cameras out there these years. It's just out there doing what it takes to help the kids. And I did want to make mention of a couple other names that she gave me. Judge James Lambino.
Oh, Lamberdino.
Judge
Lamberdino.
Judge John Schmoody.
Schmoody, yes.
Judge Charlie Prime.
Oh, Charlie's a really good guy.
Judge Ron Moore, Judge Alicia York, and of course, Trustee Dick.
Yeah. Judge Prime he's another real great guy. You mentioned a few of them. Judge Schmoody, John Schmoody, he's another. That was an interesting race, and I can talk all about that. Where you had an incumbent that just pushed policy where if you didn't take parenting class, you didn't get custody or even visitation. It was just insane, just bad. I mean, you don't want that person in any party. So I'm glad to see that you have that John Schmoody's involved. That of course Charlie Pine is one of the nicest people around. You got good people pushing this, which it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
It is absolutely the right thing to do, and more people need to be trying to help others.
And one last thing, I want to make mention that last year was pretty special because obviously with Hurricane Harvey, we actually had to reschedule. As you remember, we actually had to reschedule the back to school event for the following weekend, just because that weekend, the fourth Sunday, which would have been around the 27th of August of last year, people were stuck in their homes. People didn't have power. People didn't have proper communication, so we were forced to reschedule the back to school event. And we reached out to our sponsors, Eric Dick and Judge Dean, and we let them know, hey, you know what? I know this is a back to school giveaway, but we need to add some clothes and some food. And our sponsors last year stepped it up, and we were able to give out clothes, food, and other toiletries to the community. And so we're happy that this year we're not needed to give out additional clothes and food.
But we won't turn them away if somebody brings some clothes up there and they have a lot. I mean, because kids do, especially in ISD, a lot of them need the uniforms.
Oh, absolutely. And still, people are still displaced a year later.
So with this in mind, Harvey going back to school today is also, and there's also some other stuff going on today. You got a bond proposal. Today's the last day. It's election day for to add some more debt, and
and there's a lot of confusion on this bond issue too, because when first we had the county judge specifically say he wanted this special election because he didn't want to have a campaign for himself in the bond in November. So he asked the governor to set this in August. And the governor's response was, you already have the money coming, and it's now. So I don't know why you really need this, but I'll go ahead and set it for you anyways. So when the governor says that, Eric, Phillip, do we need this $2.5 billion additional when the governor already says it's coming?
I don't. But
well, the thing that I like about it is, in all fairness to Judge Emmett and his team, Owens and a few other people down there, they've done a good job, in my opinion. And obviously, you have up until about 7 p.m. today to go vote. But in my opinion, they did a good job to try to spell out street corner by block by block exactly where those funds were going to be allocated toward. So whether or not areas or certain communities need those fundings or need the money, I can say that they were transparent and rolled out there exactly where those monies, where those dollars were going to go. So I appreciate that.
But the money's already money that is being allocated, but needed for those areas. That's already coming from the state, right?
Well, if you've seen some of the devastation out there, and I know you have, Kamal, it's a rhetorical question. So going out there and Kojic, we were donated a huge 60,000 square foot facility at the Harvey, which Kojic Charities and Kojic Urban Initiatives were able to come in and set up a resource center where people can come get goods and other services. And we took it with Bishop Macklin and Bishop Blake and Bishop Bryant. We took tour around certain areas, and if you were to see some of those areas and some of the devastation, and it wasn't just poor African American and Hispanic communities. It was everywhere. If you were to see some of those areas, I guarantee you, from my perspective, you can't give enough money to one, to help those people be restored, and two, to try to prevent this from happening again.
And also you have everyone all along Barker Dam that had flooded. And
absolutely.
It's just a big
and none of that
mess.
money touches that area as a project, though, right? So
that's the county. Maybe we'll talk more about that soon. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we're gonna take another little break. I've got Phil Paul Bryant as a guest. This is Eric Dick and Chris Carmona's playing wingman. Thank you guys.
Wingman, come on. Oh, Mr. Devil's Advocate over.
No, that was good. That was good content.
You Republicans, man. I tell you.
That was good content.
the Republicans are supporting it. What are you talking about? Well, some of the Republicans are.
Yeah, some of them are. I'm not necessarily, but it's just
the Ed Emmett Republicans.
It's just good. It's good talk. It's good stuff to talk about. It's fodder. I do think that if Ed Emmett and if the city had more like how Ed Emmett was like, this is where the money's going, all that, they would have less blowback. With, I think he did.
That was smart on campaign wise to build it out, but when Abbott says you don't really need them because it's coming, you have around, it should be there by August. But go ahead, let's put it on the ballot.
Jack Morgan was there saying, do we really need to do this?
Yeah.
You have to get fighting Jack. He's not been doing bad. I've been really impressed with how Jack's been campaigning.
He's finally I want he's been quiet. He just does his job. He doesn't ever do hoorah and all that for the last 4 years.
He's just in the community. That's all he is.
He does his job.
Unless you're in the community, you
And
don't see.
but like, even 4 years ago, he didn't campaign. I don't think that was 4 years ago. No, but this year, his campaign is pretty strong, man.
That's a solid campaign. He's in the community. You think
volunteer. I want to thank so many of you who just raised awareness.
great
You don't
job.
see much from Adrian.
PTSD have a place to go.
Adrian's a career politician that's gone from spot to spot to spot. The Democrats don't even like Adrian.
717-78.
Shot a lot of us, got a little capital on the mayor's race, and then back after that, going against Jamie Green.
Now let our other veterans serve you.
One after the other. So,
There is an answer. Call Campbell. It's
Dylan,
877-717-PTSD.
how you doing out there, man? You doing
That
good?
intro's great.
Oh, the intro?
Yeah, the intro's hysterical. The intro's horrible.
Sarah Barrett,
So much information there.
Dylan Glass.
You're getting a little bit older.
and want to talk to somebody.
You have any questions? Hey, we need some, when we come back and get the calling number.
Yeah.
If you have any questions about RV issues or the back to school event, I can call in and then we'll see if we can get some patches. How y'all doing over here? I haven't checked on y'all in a while.
You guys doing good? Guys doing good?
Most of the employees, including the owner or former military themselves, best place to get training, practice,
Can't
license
see.
carry, and a great rental fleet. So you shoot their guns, one of them there. 713-779 TopGunRange.com.
You've got lots of engines in your life.
When,
Cars, hard-equipped ATVs, motorcycles, watercraft, name it. And they all use fuel and oil. These same fluids that make your engine run also create deposits that reduce performance and gas mileage. Now, multi-system tuning removes these carbon deposits and stabilizes fuel and oil, helping restore performance and fuel economy. Cash in today.
Philip, we're talking about your book. I'm actually going to spin that over to Philip Paul Books Library. Where can they buy this book? Philip speaks of.
That's right.
Oh, you can't get there by bus? You need to buy a new car?
Philip Paul Fry's cars.
You can't wake up in the morning. You need some coffee. Go to Phil Paul's Coffee House.
That's right. 30 seconds. All right. Okay.
15 minutes could save 15% or more. From around town.
The city of Houston to overcome our obstacles and our
That's funny though.
The world is talking about it.
Remember to hit your arm going back in.
Ride home with Joe Bag. Lots going on, lots more to get to. Monday evening at 6 on KPRC 950.
And we're back. Eric Dick, back with special guest Philip Paul Bryant, is back to school, 9th annual Backpack to 5th Ward.
Making a difference.
You know what really impressed me about Philip Paul Bryant is that he actually does good for the community. I mean, he has two first names, Philip Paul. You know they always said that those two first name guys, you got to watch out for them.
Technically, I got 3 first names, Philip Paul Bryant.
That's true.
And 3 last names.
Man, I thought we'd see you on news for other items, but man, good seeing him doing some good for the community.
Philip's done a lot of good for the community for a lot of things. But anyway, maybe we'll take some phone calls. Maybe if anyone decides they want to call in.
Yeah, if you have any questions about the back to school drive coming up tomorrow at the Island of Hope Church, or maybe any Harvey related questions about insurance claims, the process, feel free to give us a call. That number is
713-212-5950. That's 713-212-5950. Anyway, so we're talking about Harvey. Maybe we'll go back, kind of talk a little bit more about Harvey, the bond election. I know it's the elections today. So what I found like good, I mean, I almost always vote no if it involves a bond election or any type of tax increase. It's hard for me to vote yes for that. But having said all that, so you probably figure out where I'm going to vote. But having said all that, what I am really impressed with is how Ed Emmett kind of positioned this. Not that he kind of weaseled into avoiding the general election. I'm not very impressed with that. But I am impressed with how he explained basically what they needed, where the money's going to be spent. And I think that level of transparency, kudos to you, Ed Emmett. Kudos to, the team that's campaigning on that. I am also impressed that Jack Mormon, he stood up. He's like, do we really need to be doing this? And I have to say, I know it's a hot race, but Jack Mormon has been doing just such a killer job in his campaign. I've been nothing but impressed with that guy. And he won just out of a complete fluke. He's another great example of how Republicans should kind of campaign, how their position should be, because he just cares about his community. He really does. And
that's where you see the success in Harris County, and especially a lot of urban areas around the country. It's when you truly care about the community and where you live, and you're making that voter contact, and not considering voters but actual people in your district. That's where you're seeing the success in these candidates and people like Jack Mormon, doing it right and knocking it out the park.
Yeah, and in Jack, it's like he won. It was just a complete fluke. Sylvia Garcia had like $2 million, $3 million she was sitting on. She thought she was going to walk with the race. And Jack had like 2 pennies to his name. His campaign was pretty much bubblegum and shoestrings. The guy, he's just struggling. It'd be like just some guy just decided they're going to run for office. They run, and they end up winning. And they're kind of, I'm sure you're taken back, blown away. No one expected Jack Mormon to win.
It's almost like Helena Brown in 2011.
It's actually, it is similar to that, but it was more mind-blowing because it was such a large spot. And you had find Jack Mormon, just go in there. He's been doing a good job since. I'm really impressed with him. I really am. And there's not a whole lot of people I am impressed with, but I'm really, really impressed with Jack Mormon.
Speaking of being impressed, again, tomorrow, the 9th annual Island of Hope Backpack to 5th Ward back to school drive. Paul Bryan has been doing that impressively for the last 9 years, and having the big support from Eric Dick and Judge Sherry Dean and Judge Warren Moore, and now a host of other judges have jumped into the fray, family law judges, and it's going to be a huge event tomorrow, so make sure y'all come by and check that out. That's from 12 to
2:30.
12 to 2:30. Now, other than the backpacks, what else are you going to have there, Philip?
We're going to have school supplies, man. We're going to have everything that they need as far as starting school. And I know some kids have already started school. I believe HISD starts on Monday. And so, and I encourage parents, if you don't have any kids or your kids are grown, come on out, volunteer, because you can make a difference just by encouraging a kid to stay in school, get good grades, and just let them see some positive role models. You're familiar with the area, 5th Ward, there's a lot of questionable stuff going on around there. So to see some positive influences, we got a liquor store about 3 blocks away where every day when kids walk home from school, they'll see behind a liquor store just a crowd of people just drinking and hanging out. And so to push on them some positiveness, some you can do it. It'll go a long way. So you never know exactly what's going on in the home. And so just to be that unbiased voice of saying, hey, you can do this. I think you're going to be great. What do you think about being a doctor? What do you think about being an attorney? What do you think about running for office one day? Hey, you can be an astronaut or run for president. So just to have different voices, encourage kids. So come out, volunteer. If you think your kids already have everything they need, then bring them out anyway and let them rub off some of their good home training off on some kids who may not be as fortunate. So 1505 Greg Street, that's tomorrow at 12 o'clock sharp. We're going to have drill teams there. We're going to have praise dancers, karate performances.
It's going to be one big party, huh?
It's going to be a back-to-school party.
And again, kids, parents, bring the school list with you. You can go and do your shopping there if you haven't done so already.
Absolutely.
I know I spent about $150 on my 2 girls this past week. I may go take that back to Walmart or Target and do my shopping at Island of Hope tomorrow. If there's some supplies left for the people who really need.
They may take your Republican
Hey, you said you had plenty.
Okay, guys, okay. So we got kudos to you, Philip. You're doing a great job with Island of Hope. You got great people backing you on that. And, let's just, we're going to finish up the show, maybe.
Yeah, if you have any questions, again, call in. The number again is
713-212-5950. Then, feel free to call in, but let's kind of maybe transition this a little bit. The show's going to be on weekly. We, the next 2 weeks we're not going to be on because of
U of
H football, but we're getting our sea legs. We're coming back. We're going to have a lot of other great, local guests. I'm going to be the host. I'm hoping I'm going to be the host. Unless someone comes, takes my name from which, who knows what's going to happen.
You never know.
Never know.
Some dick try to take your name.
Yeah, no, everyone tries. Everyone does different things for different reasons. Okay, so anyway, so back to maybe let's talk Harvey a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and we can't talk about that enough, especially this weekend. Again, it's the 1-year anniversary. That's why we really want to make sure that we also highlight, Philip Paul's back to school drive, because again, the devastation it put on a lot of families and the lasting effect it's had. It's not just the school supplies and the clothing there's still a lot of assistance needed with Harvey related items and issues. And again, if you have those questions, you need help and some guidance, it's not too late. Eric Dick's always willing to offer the assistance where it's needed.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Dick Law Firm. There's a lot of claims from Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey caused a lot of damage, and it's going to be a long time before everything's resolved. I know a lot of people are still fighting with their homeowners insurance companies over storm damage. A lot of people are fighting over TWIA, and that's just a show in itself with all the problems that TWIA's face and whether or not we should even have TWIA or whether even TWIA is worth the money people pay.
And if we want to get rid of entities like TWIA or the policies like TWIA, then make sure you're holding those who make these laws accountable, right?
We should make sure we're holding those people accountable. People run for office. And, politics. All what I found is being involved in politics, being elected, being an attorney, all this stuff is tied together. Politics, law, policy, government, it's all tied together. And if you're just trying to do the right thing, try to make a living, trying to help people, it gets hard. And it's easy to go down the path of being negative and being upset at the situation, but it's really hard to actually do something that's meaningful, that actually is worthwhile, and actually get paid for it. So I'm always impressed with people like Philip Paul Bryant that go out, and he just does a lot of different things. And I've always been impressed with what you do, Philip. I'm impressed with the Kodak PAC, which is a great organization you're the chairman for.
Can we get you to put some of this stuff in writing, please?
Absolutely. But you've done really great. And my point is this, that it's so easy to go down the path of just being negative and, oh no, everyone else, caused this. So thank you.
And it's good to have people like that in the community. And, if you're always getting pushed around, you got to make sure you have somebody in the corner that's a little bit stronger, a little bit tougher than the other guy. And that's Eric Dick.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Follow me on Twitter at Dick Law Firm. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, guys. You have a great one.
Have you suffered property damage and had your insurance claim denied?
This is Eric Dick. I think it's important that you know your rights. Hurricane Harvey may have been the most costly storm in history, and if your home was damaged and your insurance company did you wrong, well, you have the right to hire an attorney and sue them. You have the right to call me for a free consultation at 833-3HARVEY, 833-3HARVEY. Don't let your insurance company take advantage of you. Know your rights.
Call the Dick Law Firm now at 1-833-3HARVEY.
A Houstonian claiming his religious freedom is being denied might soon see his lawsuit against the city dismissed.
And it appeared that Judge Kyle Carter was thinking about dismissing the case, saying that Philip doesn't have standing.
Philip Paul Bryant filed a lawsuit in 2017 claiming his religious rights to charitable giving were being infringed upon by a 2012 Houston Feeding the Homeless ordinance. In the city of Houston, you can give 5 homeless people a sandwich, but that 6th sandwich, that's the one that will cost you.
Could be fined $500 to $2,000, or you can even take the risk with going to jail.
According to his attorney, Eric Dick, Bryant's case may not find a home in Harris County Civil Court.
They're saying that my client, he waited over a year to file a lawsuit since he found out about the law. If people just found out about the law and they want to sue the city for this illegal act, I'm happy to represent them for free. I think that it's a mean world whenever acts of charity are criminal.
To be fair, the ordinance doesn't outright ban the giving of food to the homeless. It just creates a lot of hurdles to jump through to do it lawfully.
My children are a big deal in this, and teaching them how to give to the community. If they want to make 10 sack lunches and go hand them around downtown Houston, I shouldn't have to go to my government office in order to obtain permission just to give those sandwiches.
Feeding Rocks. It should not be a crime to feed the homeless. Feeding Rocks. A good Samaritan shouldn't be punished for acts of kindness. Feeding Rocks. Because it's more of a crime to turn your back on a starving person. Feeding Rocks. You shouldn't go to jail for sharing food. Feeding Rocks. You can't in good conscience let a hungry person starve. Feeding Rocks. Help us legalize charity. Go online and sign the petition. www.feeding.rocks. Feeding Rocks.
You need top tax offenders. It's simply too risky to fight the IRS without the knowledge and experience of top tax offenders and their attorneys and tax specialists. Call them now, 713-489-7792. That's 713-489-7792 or online, toptaxdefenders.com. Opinions provided on the Eric Dick Show are for informational purposes only and not for the purpose of providing legal advice. You should contact your attorney to obtain advice with respect to any particular legal problem. The opinions expressed on the Eric Dick Show are that of the host and guests and do not reflect the opinions of the station or iHeartMedia.
When you've got big problems, you need to have a big, you need Eric Dick, homeowner insurance lawyer and trustee for the Harris County Department of Education. This is the Eric Dick Show.
All right, folks, I'm back for more, back for a lot of exciting worlds of lawyerism, politics, insurance law, and just all around, just whatever we feel like talking about, I guess. I have sitting with me today, Philip Paul Bryant of Kojic Pack and many businesses.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. Just jumping in, I'm a homeowner's insurance attorney, obviously, elected to the Harris County Department of Education, which most people don't even know exists. It's really a fascinating organization, which we should talk about sometime. And so Hurricane Florence, that hit, and it hit big.
Yeah.
It looks like it was reduced from a Cat 5 with just crazy windstorms, maybe Cat 4 down to Cat 1. But the big thing there, so you got 100-mile-an-hour winds. You got this just gigantic, like flooding event where you had waves, 80-foot waves, just enormous waves kind of coming through.
I think they said nearly 10 trillion gallons of water is going to be coming in.
Yeah, just a crazy amount of water coming in. And so, we experienced a heavy flooding event here as well with Hurricane Harvey. But so what I'd like to kind of talk about a little bit is what people don't realize is there's different types of kind of insurance that kind of play here when you have a flood event like we did have with Harvey and also with Florence. Florence seems like it's going to be just, if it's possible, worse flooding event than we had here with Harvey. But it's clear that it's gonna be bad, and I'm sorry for everyone out there having to go through that. But so what we can kind of talk about a little bit is your basic different types of policies, where you have your homeowner's insurance, your typical your windstorm, fire, theft, that type of insurance. That's where you see normally advertised with your State Farm, Farmers, AAA, what have you. Then you also have, FIP, which is your National Flood Insurance Program. Now that's an interesting type of policy, and that is it's a government kind of funded, subsidized technically, which there gets all sorts of ethical and interesting questions on whether or not we should subsidize insurance. There's a long history with NFIP. And in Texas and in other coastal regions, you have like some type of government funded or even government backed windstorm insurance, which we have Texas windstorm insurance. And there's some serious problems we've been having with Texas windstorm insurance since Hurricane Harvey. But looking at Florence, like it looks like it's going to be bad. I mean, Philip, did you see any of the articles or where how big this storm was? Because it was crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty scary. And obviously coming out of Harvey last year, so we're just I don't know if there's a such thing as a hurricane PTSD, but just seeing water and seeing all this stuff again just kind of scares you. And it's also kind of since we did experience it here firsthand last year, it kind of makes us also want to kind of reach out, donate some stuff. A lot of us have extra clothes and shoes and toiletries, and so I from the people I've been speaking with, I just want to know how they can be involved and what they do to try to help the Carolinas.
That's right. So, we got flooded really bad, and a person that really did a good job with the flooding in Harris County, we actually have here today, Chris Daniel, and he could tell us all about the flooding and just the craziness.
Harris County District Clerk.
That is Harris County District Clerk.
10 years, 100 years now, man. He's
about 7.5, 8 years. And Eric, it's a real pleasure as your Harris County District Clerk to be here today, especially on your new radio program.
Well, it's great for you to be here, and of all days, a day not far from whenever Harvey hit, and when we had this horrible tragedy in the Carolinas. And I want to thank you very much because you did such a good job dealing with all the flooding in Harris County that I don't think anybody wanted to, and no one wanted to deal with that job. And you did such a good job with that.
Well, I appreciate that. And there's a lot of backstory that never got told by the media, not because they weren't trying to cover it, but because there were so many heroes and unsung heroes of Harvey. To put it in context for the listeners, as a native Houstonian, I've been personally flooded twice in the city of Jersey Village in 1998 and again in Tropical Storm Allison in 2001. And during Harvey, my own mother lost everything in her home in Friendswood as 5 feet of water descended into her house. And it is an unfortunate experience of mine to have to deal with flooding in Houston, especially with the Memorial Day flood and the Tax Day flood, and how we practiced our disaster plans from both those floods and managed the courthouse and managed the docket and managed canceling jury service, and getting the word out to the public that, hey, do not drive into high water, turn around, don't drown at the courthouse. And all that prepared us for Harvey so that when other agencies had not yet practiced a disaster plan, we were already set up days before with emergency computers and equipments and generators in the various places where we were supposed to be for emergency court.
Well, you guys still, sorry, Eric, but you guys still have a lot of house guests as a result of Hurricane Harvey. I know the criminal court judges and team is hanging out in your building. How does that feel, and what's the plan there?
It's a new normal, and we are all getting along now. There were some growing pains initially. I mean, let's be honest. We had one judge try to throw another judge in jail for not getting off the bench fast enough.
Wow.
And we had some other judges basically kick the DAs out of their suite area into the hallway. And then another judge come back and says, no, you can't be out in the hallway, both claiming fire code violations. But it is a new normal. We are now getting along fine. And unfortunately, it's predicted that not till the middle towards end of 2020 will we be back in that particular building. But when we do get back into that building fully, we're going to have a whole bunch of new elevators, a whole bunch more elevators, more space in general because the sheriff is not really moving back into that building. And it's going to be a great facility going forward.
So just a couple things. One, I think would be important for the listeners is to explain what the district clerk does, because I think a lot of people have no clue what Harris County District Clerk is.
The district clerk's office is a statutory office that's created in response to the growth needed in Texas. The basic founding fathers of Texas had your basic 6 or 7 offices: treasurer, sheriff, county clerk, county judge, et cetera, et cetera. But as time progressed, it was very clear you needed more courts. So they created state district courts, your old-fashioned circuit courts where folks would ride on horse and buggy from county to county. And then you had to have a clerk to keep those records. In all other states, the title would be clerk of the court. In Texas, it's the district clerk for the district judges.
Cool. And so your role, currently as a district clerk, what kind of you do day to day?
Call me the traffic cop, if you will, of all filings going in and out of the courthouse. So when Mr. Dick yourself files something in our courthouse, you would either file that electronically, preferably, or by paper, and we would accept it and then hand it off to a randomly assigned judge for it to then proceed judicially, and then the judge would then assign electronically, hopefully, his order at the end of the case, and you would have an entire file that would normally be paper, by the way, now electronic for anybody to use, view, etc. It not only saves taxpayer money long term, but it makes it faster and easier, better for justice to proceed. But I also handle, and a very unpopular duty, by the way, but a basic constitutional duty, your fundamental right to serve on jury duty here in Harris County.
Oh boy, I bet you're popular, everywhere you go.
Unpopular for somebody in Harris County at least once every 3 years. Now, you'd be surprised how many people want to serve and want to be in a jury. And as time goes forward, we're going to continue to implement technology to make that faster, easier, and better as well. The other major function that we do, by the way, that most people don't realize, is we do passports.
Well, that's excellent. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about a lot of great stuff with Chris Daniel. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Eric Dick and Philip Bryant's
Wingman.
He's wingman it today. Thanks, guys. I'm still in the troops. She was trying to tell us I wasn't.
Now we can keep talking about flood. Talk about how.
Yeah, we'll talk about the flood for a while. We got a bit of time. I wanted to kind of go into some other stuff. They want to talk about Prop Beach. I want to talk about Prop Beach. And then some can talk about some stuff. Like I like what was going on with Patterson and Bush. I think that's kind of interesting. At least deserves discussion. Sure. We'll just run into it. And we got a good Facebook Live audience going. Oh man! So you made it.
Well, that 16 curve, once I got trapped, having doing that one X, I was toast.
That's weekend too. Yeah, it's bad. It's weird.
PTSD have a place to go.
They got you in. They just brought in.
It's 877-717 PTSD. That's 877-717-7870. 877-717 PTSD veterans.
Hey Philip, are you on live as well? Cool.
We're all behind you. We're all here from you.
Cool.
Call Camp Hope. It's free to you. 877-717 PTSD.
This is and I think it's important that you know your rights. Have been doing anything?
Sat next to me today at the Delta Sigma Theta event.
You have the right to call me for free consultation. This is 7 rights.
She didn't have any money, so she's relying on
this week. Take advantage of it.
I never know what's going on.
833-7 rights.
As your homeowner's insurance,
you never know what's going to happen. Hey guys, how are y'all doing? You never know what's happening. I think we can talk about that.
Well, occasionally I like to stop and just say thanks.
I've done, to be fair, up and down, left and right.
Friends at U.S. Wins,
You really want to come?
Joe,
We finished.
I'm not saying y'all, but we can talk about is like the connection you've done, use social media, interact with more lawyers, use their information, family,
U.S. coins coming in, you're bragging on the show. We appreciate it. You're having a good experience. U.S. coins, 10 outside the loop. 713-464-6860.
My dad, we're piloting that right now with David. Want me to talk about that? Yeah. E-resets and hearing.
If you're being audited, have years of unfiled tax returns. Wage garnishment or pay levy using top tax defenders. It's simply too risky by the IRS. With the knowledge and experience of top tax defenders and their attorneys and tax specialists. Call them now. 713-489-7792. That's 713-489-7792 or online at toptaxdefenders.com.
To deal with.
Try new
new endless pan pizzas at Seasons, available in both Meat Eater and Supreme. Now
Are we allowed to
open,
talk about
starting at
Texas
just
lawyer
$1.99.
Facebook
It's your
pages?
best
That's not
price for
political.
endless pan pizza,
We can talk
all at
politics
Seasons.
stuff. If we
Find
talk politics,
participation
that's fine.
varies.
Okay, I think
Visit
no one that might mean
Seasons.com/.
instead of purchase. She wants to come here. She can. Don't care. I'm fucking Maryland. What? They're looking at me. What are you guys trying to tell me?
Should we be talking right now?
No, I was just playing on the internet, talking to all my friends on Facebook. That's what I was doing. Anyway, so we're back. We're back with my radio show, and Philip O'Brien's helping me out today. He's just a fantastic go-getter, and our special guest today is the district clerk,
The one and only.
and Chris Daniel. What we're talking about is Hurricane Harvey really devastated Houston. But what I'd like to talk about is some of the great things that Chris Daniel has done with, the role as district clerk, made kind of the office more accessible to, fellow lawyers. He's been, to be fair, he's been just a fantastic district clerk. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, or independent, he really has tried, and I can tell. But so tell me, Chris, about all the stuff you've done. Sure. So electronic courts, for example, started as a pilot program in 2002 under Charles Baxter with 2 basic courts, and was expanded under subsequent district clerks up to 8 courts with a few permissible courts. And under our administration, we went totally electronic in all civil courts. By the time the mandates came down for family courts to go electronic, we were already halfway there. And by 2015, all family courts were electronic. And with that, we had another mandate come down by the Texas Supreme Court that we need to have criminal courts electronic, with the exception of juvenile. And that, the criminal courts, that you're talking about criminal discovery, which is kind of, you've just completely opened the door, which is kind of a good thing, I think. But so tell me about criminal discovery. Well, through our website, as you're tied to the case as an attorney, you can now get directly from the DA's office all their electronic discovery videos, DWI videos in particular. And the whole purpose is to make it faster, easier, better for the attorneys to represent their clients and seek justice.
Now, what's interesting, I kind of want to give a little backstory here, is so when I started practicing law about 10 years ago, I did a number of criminal cases. How you used to get your files, you'd have to, and usually the DA would freely give you their stuff, but sometimes they really didn't have to. And you could serve discovery. So you couldn't just mail them at. You'd have to go to the court, kind of file something at the courthouse. So you'd have to either wait for a hearing or actually drive down there, file the stuff. And it was really kind of a pain where to do any type of discovery. But that's gone now. So now attorneys, doing criminal defense work in their comfort of their own home in their pajamas at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., whatever time, they can e-file their discovery to the DA's office, and it's a complete different world. And we aren't, we may have been. Are there other counties that do this?
No, in fact, Fort Worth and Dallas were trying to do something along these lines, and the best they could do was get the charging instruments online. Which is also part of our ongoing process, because not only did the Supreme Court mandate that something be filed electronically into the case, but we recognized that to be totally electronic, we had to have all facets of justice electronic. That includes e-warrants, e-subpoenas, e-citations, and so on and so on.
So I just want to kind of step back. You're saying no other county in Texas out of the 254 counties does electronic discovery for criminal cases?
Not that to my knowledge. Most counties are accepting electronic filings per se, and then going behind the filings back and printing it out on a printer and sticking it in the paper file. It defeats the whole purpose of electronic filing. The goal is to not only be faster, easier, better, and more indexed so that the attorneys can do a basic Google search on their own case and find rapidly what they need to represent their client, but to save taxpayer money.
And be environmentally friendly as well.
Well, that's a good benefit because when you're saving trees, you're also not having to pay for all that toner and printers and paper and so on and so on, plus personnel.
Well, it just makes basic sense. Easier access to justice, cost people less money.
But it's also a safety issue. When we implemented e-subpoenas, that saved 32 positions for the sheriff's office, then put back into the courtroom as bailiffs that no longer had to process subpoenas because it was a automated electronic process. And that came vital, especially after Harvey, where we were doubled up in the courthouse.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, you've really done a good job there. So how about like where you've tied in social media to the district clerk's office? Why don't you talk?
I have a love-hate relationship with social media. My first race was for the Board of Trustees for Lone Star College System, of which I won, and I beat the board chairman by using a little-known website called MySpace. And MySpace was revolutionary at that time. And now we're having Facebook and Twitter and so forth, and I have attorneys even contacting me on LinkedIn and Nextdoor, the app. And what we do with all that is when they contact me, I personally respond. We get their email address, and we get them funneled to the right location to get their problem resolved. And the beauty of that is that, especially on the Texas Lawyer Forum on Facebook, the various groups and pages, they're able to not only get their question answered, but help other lawyers who might have a similar question get the question answered. It's not always the answer they want to hear. For example, there's a snafu going on like right now with sensitive data documents, where the Texas Supreme Court has asininely created a category of sensitive data, where when you file something electronically, and I'm sorry to get technical audience, but when you file something electronically and you market sensitive data to protect your client's best interest, well, guess what? We're not allowed to show that online at all. Well, that became such a problem because if Eric files something, he knows he filed something and I can't show it. How do we explain that? So we created an electronic index that at least showed that it had been filed. You still had to download and view elsewhere. You couldn't view it online. And that has created a whole bunch of headaches for lawyers out there with this new restricted category. But again, that's just trying to solve the Supreme Court problem for them.
Well, it sounds like done the best you can do. Yeah, so
he also implemented passports in his building because that wasn't done before under I think Jackson.
That wasn't done under any district clerk in Texas, except for in Harris County, except for the surrounding counties. And so we decided to take the bull by the horns and say, look, Stan's right here with birth certificates. Why can't we just finish the gap and come up with a passport service? I'm sorry, the post office has set the bar so low that when we get these comment cards coming in about how wonderful we are, it's like, well, it's no brainer. We want to serve you, public. We want you to come in and have the best experience possible while you're already downtown for an unfortunate reason in court, or to get a birth certificate, a marriage license, a DBA for your new business, a liquor license for that kind of business, or you're serving jury duty. Come on down anyway and get your passport. Get a new passport, get it renewed. And oh, by the way, we go through Philadelphia instead of Baltimore, and therefore our passports are processed faster. And therefore it takes an average of about 14 business days instead of 46 weeks to get your passport back.
One other question. I know a lot of viewers are wanting to know, is there something that can be done about those lines in the morning to get into court? And I assume it's a lot of it because of the criminal court being combined.
Correct. Now, once we're back in the jury assembly building, which unfortunately became an unnecessary 11-foot deep swimming pool during Harvey, once we're back in that building, a lot of those lines will go away automatically. That has a beautiful and its own covered entryway. But Constable Precinct 1, Alan Rosen, actually handles the security that comes in and out of the courthouse. And he has been piloting programs to put people through the other courthouse security doors so that they're not having to necessarily bottleneck right there at the front door. But they could go to the juvenile building, or they can go to other buildings where there are metal detectors. We can't get rid of the metal detectors. We've got to keep our judges and our lawyers safe. We're dealing with a lot of hot topics at the courthouse, divorces, criminal cases, etc. And we need to keep everybody safe.
Feeding the homeless.
Feeding the homeless. But at the end of the day, thankfully, Constable Rosen is working hand in hand with our office to pilot these different ways to
get people funneled into the courthouse through other buildings.
Sure. We're going to take a break.
That's that music.
Yeah, that's the music. They're giving me a hint. This is Eric Dick. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Chris Daniel and Philip O'Brien's right here with me. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Too fast? Too much?
No, that's fine.
Wasn't too technical, was it, Brian?
Yeah.
Some people
are you still talking about MySpace? You're talking about what dial-up internet back then?
Tom was a fan, man.
Yeah, you just talking to close your MySpace account, by the way.
Is it still up? I thought I deleted it. I deleted it 10 years ago.
Oh man, I never had a MySpace. That was for musicians.
Back on Facebook Live.
They're talking some.
Feeding Rocks. Can't in good conscience let a hungry person starve. Feeding Rocks. Help us legalize charity. Go online and sign a petition. www.feeding.rocks. Feeding Rocks.
A lot of good people watching. What they want. I put the number. I put it on the Facebook. You guys want to call in? Call in. Let's go. Let's talk about maybe. Let's talk about politics a little bit.
This is Mario Lopez. So I'm planning to celebrate.
There's a lot of juicy stuff to talk about. A lot of juicy stuff to talk about.
Just say that I don't drink and drive. It's just not worth it. Because the DWI would cost you up to $17,000.
We had the Lincoln today in the Yes Bathurst Parade.
You could also lose your license. So plan
we're talking about
for the Monopoly car that we use in all our parades.
Go to jail.
And I had a parade today. I had a block walk kickoff, and I had the Scandit forum. And now y'all
just hustling. Hustling. It is grinding.
I've been hustling.
Been up till what, 7 in the morning? Run around.
You talking local, state, or national politics?
I want to talk about Jerry Patterson, where he's a Republican and he endorsed George P. Bush's opponent. And the reason why and all that, I think that's kind of interesting. Is at least people are talking about that. I'd also like to talk about a lot of people are upset that Willie Nelson's playing for Beto. And just kind of, I think Cruz is going to win that. I'm voting for Cruz, but that's an interesting. I think there's something there. At least interesting.
Disclaimer: Geico cannot guarantee you will be as happy as a clam. Unquote. The Geico legal team cannot accurately
verify. I think it was pretty neck and neck until the National Party starts.
They poured a lot of money into it because they got scared.
What's there to be happy about? A clam's all like, oh, I'm so happy I didn't get turned into New England clam chowder today.
What's that going to do? I don't know.
So fun to say. What were we talking
and also, we need to talk about Prompt B with the firefighters.
Yeah. I mean, everybody get a couple of times.
Sometimes, like everything in life has gone against us. Take a break from anxiety.
I'll explain some of the city council issues with the Cenotaph in San Antonio and how they have already kind of boxed Bush in a little bit with regard to that.
Okay.
Now, I mean, he needs to take a leadership stand. Yeah, they already voted. Yeah, they've already.
I think they're hey guys, I'm back. Okay, so we got Chris Daniel here. We got Philip O'Brien, and let's talk about some politics. I know everybody loves talking about politics and maybe some gossip, and let's see where it goes.
Man, it's how you lose more friends.
Politics.
It's how you lose more friends.
Well, you know, I don't have many friends speaking. Right. When you don't have any, it's not hard to lose them. Okay, so what I found interesting is one of the person I think highly of is Bonnie Lugo was having a bit of a fit about how Jerry Patterson endorsed George P. Bush's opponent. And the whole kind of backstory, there's a lot of backstory with the Bushes and Trump and all that type of stuff. But I think really kind of the tie-in here and why a lot of people are just genuinely upset with the Bushes is George P. Bush's role with the Alamo and how a lot of people like my family were tied. We have relatives that fought in the Alamo. we have relatives basically in every Texas war. The first alcalde of Columbus is a relative. It's just like the history, at least in my family and many other residents in Texas, they have such a deep Texas history, and they're just highly offended, highly offended is in how he's trying to commercialize, in essence, the Alamo. Have you heard anything? What do you think about that, Chris?
You know, it is a time for leadership. And I think with the best of intentions, the current land commissioner's office delved into trying to expand, preserve, and protect the Alamo. And unfortunately, too many businessmen and too many consultants got involved, particularly those that were not from Texas. And we have a mess on our hands. And a lot of it is a technical issue that is more complicated than a 20-second soundbite. For example, most folks don't know that the San Antonio City Council has already voted and kind of boxed Bush in as far as moving the cenotaph, the wonderful monument that's been there for over 100 years, that's my understanding, that really celebrates the defenders and heroes, State Board of Education, of the Alamo. And what the problem with that is that once they have by ordinance said that you shall move this, unless he steps up as a leader and says the dickens with your city council ordinance, you know, it looks like he's kind of kowtowing to what they're demanding, what this Democrat city council is demanding.
Well, I mean, it is that, and that's true. He doesn't seem to really.
It's a time for leadership.
He's not. He doesn't seem like he's listening to his supporters. At least he's not listening to, you know, people in the Republican Party that have deep, you know, Texas roots, that just kind of have an emotional connection to you know, all this historical type of stuff, especially in an environment where we're looking at, you know, maybe removing Sam Houston's statue, which I strongly disagree with. But you have that type of environment, and a lot of people are emotional about this.
This becomes a reduction to absurdity, reductio ad absurdum, to make a legal term. And at some point, we are doing our children, our grandchildren, our posterity a disservice by destroying history. And in some cases, it is better to preserve a bad history in place as a warning than it is to just destroy it and whitewash it and sweep it under the rug.
And I agree with that. I mean, that's a completely different topic. If you're talking about Confederacy and the Civil War, that's a completely different topic.
You brought that up. I was just talking about history in general.
But if you're talking about Texas history, it's like something just vastly different, because you had people that were like Texas leaders refusing to you know, succeed, refusing to go through that whole thing you know, happening.
Well, let's take it back to the Alamo. You were talking about history here, and I was talking about tearing down history and sweeping history under the rug. Part of the problem with the expanded Alamo plan, or the criticism of the expanded Alamo plan, was you had an artist from Philadelphia who was trying to kind of de-emphasize the Battle of the Alamo itself and expand the 30,000-year history of what happened in that San Antonio region. And the problem is that that's not why people come to San Antonio. They don't come to San Antonio even to find out more about the Rough Riders, who were trained in the backyard of the Alamo, who were key and vital to not only the future of President Theodore Roosevelt, but also the Spanish-American War. They come because of the Battle of the Alamo, the icon of the battle. And for an outside Yankee to come in here and basically de-emphasize the purpose of people coming to the Alamo and expanding it the way that he did to increase the emphasis on 30,000 year history, that again is, you're not communicating to your Texas base, you're not communicating to your outside visitors who come to this UNESCO site, and your folks that want to know more about why Texans are this independent, can-do spirit.
Yeah, I agree. And it's bad news whenever you're messing with the Alamo. And it can't get any more Texas than the Alamo. People jump up and down. They have a strong emotional connection. But how about the fact that Jerry Patterson, a pretty well-known, you know, in a lot of different pockets of the Republican Party, you have him actually endorsing a Democrat, which is, a big no-no. But and what do you think about that?
I think he's making a statement. He must also be aware that he's never going to run for office again, because when people cross party lines to endorse Democrats, particularly in a race that's clearly going to be won by the Republican, you're committing political suicide. So he must firmly believe that this is his hill to die upon, and that he is going to try to make a statement to all that the handling of the Alamo has not been the way that he would have handled it, and that with the best of intentions, more leadership needs to step up to get the show on the road to protect Texas history.
I'll just be upfront. I can't vote for Bush, and I don't think I can vote for the Democrat either. But there's no way I'm going to vote for George P. Bush. Just no way. I think too many of my family members would be upset with me, both living and deceased. But so do you have any opinions on the Alamo, Philip?
Yeah, well, I think I was more concerned. I won't say concerned. I don't necessarily accept the fact that it would be political suicide to step across the aisle. I think in our PAC, Houston Area Coaching PAC, we do this on a regular basis. I think you have to judge and look at the candidates for who they are,
That's
what
fair.
they stand for, their
That's fair.
background, some of their vision as well. Because I know Democrats that love Chris Daniels.
That's true. That's true.
And it's not necessarily because he's a Republican. It's because they think he knows what he's doing. They believe in the direction he's taking the district clerk's office, and it also works on the other side as well. Republicans just can't vote for someone just because they're Republican. Democrats can't vote for someone just because they're Democrat. I know we say it every election cycle, and I know every election cycle they go in and they just click that straight ticket candidate. But I think we have to go down ballot, look and see exactly who's on the ballot, what they're standing for. And a lot of it is kind of hard because you got 70 or 80 different elections, just for the judges, and then you got
75 judges on the ballot. We set the Guinness Book of World Records at one point for having one of the longest ballots in North America.
Right. So I know it's difficult to do research on a couple hundred candidates just to go vote, but it's our civic duty. People sacrifice for our right to vote and sacrifice to get there, and it does them justice because these people do affect our daily lives, whether we like to admit to it or not.
Well, to be fair, I don't disagree with anything you just said, Philip. I just think that for Jerry to make such a bold statement in a statewide race, he must think that he's not going to run for anything in the future. Now, there's a maxim that my favorite state rep from Kingwood has to say, Dan Huberty, which is if you're explaining, you're losing. And where George P. Bush has himself in the corner right now is that in order to explain this very complicated and very hot topic of the Alamo and where its future is going, he has to go very detailed into a lot of technicalities that the listeners aren't willing to take the time to read about or listen to about. And when you're explaining, you're losing.
So we're talking about statewide races. Let's go to another race that's kind of a bit controversial. Is the Ted Cruz versus Beto. And I find that interesting. You have the National Party, you have Trump coming down supporting Ted Cruz, but you also have Willie Nelson, who's having doing some stuff for Beto. You have a bunch of national money from the Republican Party being poured into Ted Cruz's race because there's genuine fear that he may lose the race. I kind of am. I doubt it, but there is truly genuine fear around a number of pockets. And you also have the polling kind of tightening. One poll at least had it one percentage vote away. Some others 4 or 5, points away. Philip, why don't you start off? What do you think about that?
I think it's a referendum on Trump. I think Ted Cruz and Donald Trump are, I wouldn't call them best friends or second best friends in the whole wide world, but they're pretty aligned as well as some of their politics. And so for this race to even make the headline is, you're right. I definitely think that the numbers show that a Republican, whether it be Ted Cruz or whoever, the numbers show that that should be a Republican seat. But for it to even be close or to even be a part of our conversation just shows you that not necessarily Ted Cruz, but in my opinion, his connection to Trump, I think, is more so a vote against Trump in that particular seat, in my opinion. And I get them emails from the Democratic Party, the Harris County Party, and so I see the angle they're using as far as fundraising and get out the vote efforts, and they're making that connection.
But what about like the play that Ted Cruz isn't a likable person and that Beto is a much more likable person, a nicer person? And do you see that
a little bit more charismatic?
I see that being pushed, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that. I just see that being pushed. What do you think, Chris?
The reason why the National Party is concerned about this race is they're seeing what I'm seeing, where Beto has a rally in Grimes County, Texas. You know what's in Grimes County, Texas? Bunch of cattle and a company that builds the most drill pipe in North America. That's it. And here you have 400 people show up to a rally in Grimes County, Texas. When you have that kind of phenomena occurring, even if it's just every Democrat was 400, it is amazing to see that this enthusiasm is going on across the board, and that's why people are scared about what's happening with Beto. That's why they're concerned.
We'll dig more into it in just a minute. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll get back on that and maybe finish up with Prop B.
Yeah.
Jeez. I think it's good stuff. Just people are fascinated by it. It's good stuff to talk about. You don't think so? I think it's
Well, so what I'm going to lead into about Beto is how he's basically using Trump tactics to define the race, and how Ted has waited too long to take control.
Well,
winding people up. Get along and live.
I don't know what's going to happen with that. I think it's more fascinating than anything.
It's that time of the year.
Well, then I'll follow that with getting technical about straight ticket voting and how
that's true.
Beto is a threat. Because if a Republican votes for Beto and they don't do the normal thing where you pull the lever and then change a vote, then they're going to have to vote all the way down the ballot. And after 75 judges, they may just forget to vote for their county judge.
About 2 years from now, because that's going to happen in 2 years from now.
That's right.
That's right. And frankly, you don't. If you owe $10,000,
All right, if you want to make that, I see the pitch.
You had to go down the Confederate statue thing, huh? I wasn't talking about that.
I had to go down on it a second. I had to go down on a second. I had to just kind of flirt with it. Just see what. I had to go with it for a second.
That's a no-win. There are people winning on that.
No, we didn't go into too deep. I had to go there for a second. I'm a sucker.
Just something that's blowing up your phone as we speak.
This is Eric Dick, and I think it's important that you know your rights. If your homeowner's insurance company is denied or underpaid your claim, you have the right to hire an attorney. You have the right to call me for free consultation at 833-7-RIGHTS. That's 833-7-RIGHTS. Don't let your homeowner's insurance company take advantage of you. Call me today at 833-7-RIGHTS.
Has your homeowner's insurance claim been denied or underpaid? Call Dick Law Firm at 833-7-RIGHTS. Hurricane Harvey hit us all. It feels sometimes like life has gone against us. Take a break from anxiety and fear.
So we had a 2-week break. Yeah, we'll be back on this more. It's kind of fun.
Right. How long's your show?
Just an hour.
Oh, we're almost gone.
You wear many
hats. That's
the
right.
new business
Finish it up.
The buying toner for the
How about 12 more minutes?
The sifting through tons of resumes hat. You can throw away that last hat.
Yeah, it is. I just don't think I have the commitment or energy to do much more.
Well, now you know it's tough for all these radio guys. I mean, think about Michael Berry having to come up with an hour every day.
He also doesn't have a job. Not elected. That's all he does.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm as happy as a clam.
I don't necessarily want to be a radio personality. It's fun. I enjoy talk about stuff. Enjoy all the friends.
Yeah, you missed out meeting Steve Johnson from KLOL.
Oh, I saw. Yeah, Danny wanted to go out. I can only do so much. Can only do so much. Get lost. And he was nearby when he hit the other side of the street. Okay. Hey guys, we're back. We're gonna wrap this thing up. We're gonna put a nice, good, tight bow on it. We were talking about Beto's race with Ted Cruz, and Chris Daniel was pontificating on, as he does from time to time, on some very interesting and intellectually stimulating views on that race. You want to go back and...
You betcha. You know, with Robert Francis O'Rourke, the Irishman from El Paso, he is defining his race the way that Donald Trump used the media against the Democratic Party. And he is defining his race in such a way that Ted Cruz has waited way too late to get back on offense and to take the definition away. And so now you have Ted Cruz basically scrambling, whereas before he was almost kind of refusing to debate Beto. Now you have Beto saying, hey, I'm too popular. I'm on this show, on that show, and national media here, national media there. Why on earth would I waste my unearned popularity to lose it all in a debate to a clearly master debater that would be very, very good at basically dissecting and eviscerating Beto on any number of topics. At this point, it is a ground game, and there's going to be a lot of national media coming in. But here's my concern, Eric. With Philip Paul Bryant votes straight Republican normally, which I know he doesn't, but if he were to, and now all of a sudden he's enamored by this John F. Kennedy-esque candidate on the Democrat side, so he decides to vote for Beto. If he doesn't do the educated thing, which is to vote straight and then circle back and vote for Beto, if he goes one by one, by the time he gets halfway down the ballot, he may say, the dickens with this, I've got lunch, I've got plans, I've got to get on a radio show with Eric Dick, and decide to quit voting. And then he might miss our wonderful county judge. He might miss the district clerk's race, the county clerk's race, the county treasurer's race. He might miss voting for the propositions. And that is a terrible thing, because that is what the party fears, is somebody is going to be enamored by Beto and say, well, you know, I love Greg Abbott. Yeah, I love all these other races, but I'm a little tired because I forgot to vote straight and then circle back and change a race.
I hope they forget George P. Bush, if they are going to forget anybody. They need to miss that one. Let's kind of, what do you think about this Prop B? A lot of people have been talking about Prop B, and I love the firefighters. I can't help but want to support them, and I do support them in Prop B. But Chris, what do you think about Prop B?
You know, as a non-resident of the city of Houston, it would be a shame for me to communicate on this, but I'll go ahead anyway. I'm basically supported by the base of both sides. I'm openly endorsed by HPLU, full disclosure, and I hope to get the endorsement of the firefighters union as well, because I'm already endorsed by the rest of their AFL-CIO brethren. At the same time, I understand why we got to where we are. We're in a situation where the cops have been basically screwed with by the various mayors since Mayor Lee Brown. And these issues didn't go away. And so they came up with a legislative solution to help them. They invited the firefighters to the table, but the firefighters had their own program going on and their own plan. And whether that was a good plan or not as good of a plan, whether they should have played nicely with the police officers or not, is water under the bridge, because now we're at this point in present time. And they have decided to take this to the people as a legislative solution instead of going to the Texas House like the police officers did. Whether that's the best plan or not, again, I don't live in the city of Houston, so it'd be dishonest of me to go further, but I want the folks listening to understand that we arrived at this because of a lack of leadership at City Hall. Period. It's not Sylvester Turner's fault. It's not Anise Parker's fault. It's not Bill White's fault. It goes all the way back to Mayor Lee Brown.
I think it goes before that, but I don't think it. I think, okay, let's kind of take a step back. You've got firefighters making $27,000 a year, which is not very much.
How much?
$27,000 a year.
Is that starting or
That's starting.
Wow.
You start at $27,000 a year. And I know there's arguments, okay, they only have to work 2 days a week, but they have to work 24-hour shifts on those 2 days a week. Good luck finding another job. And sure, they have benefits, but you talk about a job where you're running in a fiery building. I think people need to, whenever I ran for mayor, every time I've ran for city council, I've always followed Orlando Sanchez's, motto. Pick a few things, do a good job at it. Public safety, infrastructure, basic city services. That's where you want to spend your money on. Under public safety, you break that down. That's the firefighters. That's the police officers. We want them to do a good job. We want them funded to do a good job. And though I love parks, and I live next to a park, ride my bike on a park, I'd rather be safe and have firefighters, come to my house. Hey guys, remember I support you whenever my house is on fire. Remember, I support you. I'd rather them come to my house and make sure we're safe, make sure my daughters don't burn up in the house, because that would break my heart. And that'd break almost anybody's heart if their house, burns down. But my point is this. If we're talking about being, conservative, at least fiscally conservative on, with the city of Houston, spend the money where we say we're supposed to spend the money. Spend it on the firefighters. Take care of the firefighters because we need them. At the minimum, if people are, feeling spiteful towards Sylvester Turner, it's kind of a spit in the face to vote for, this, because it limits, it kind of forces Sylvester Turner to spend more money on the firefighters. So I strongly support it for a very, very, very large amount of reasons. Some of them, full disclosure, my dad was a firefighter, a captain and a senior captain at a number of, I think, 2 66s and 67s. So I'm just inherently biased towards firefighters. But on the other hand, as a Republican, as a conservative Republican, I can't help but, it's one of the things we should be doing. Philip, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely think that you have to support the firefighters. And I think they're just basically asking to be on par with their counterparts at the police department, if I'm not mistaken. So you have to support the firefighters. If they need raises, give them a little extra money. I think initially were asking for 3%, but they just were just backlogged from prior years that now they're asking for a larger percentage to try to make up for past years. And if that sends the city, puts the city in a position where they don't necessarily have a revenue to cover it, then that's going to force them to look at other programs and other possible wasteful spending to try to accommodate for that. And so I support the firefighters. I think there also is going to be another proposition about the drainage,
the rain tax.
The rain tax. And so, from what I understand, that the courts aren't going to make them refund that money back to the residents, but they're going to allow them to be a little bit more clear on the language. And so the city has some explaining to do in this municipal election cycle.
Well, just as a final word to the listeners, I just want you to understand that after this proposition is voted for or against, with regard to the firefighters, this problem is not going to go away.
Right.
We got to this problem because the city was upside down on its budget, and various mayors and city councils have tried creative solutions to solve this to no avail. The cops ended up going to the legislature to try to seek a solution. The firefighters are going a different direction to seek a solution. With regard to the drainage tax, stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Thanks, guys. This is it. We'll see you. And I'll see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Thanks very much. You guys have a great weekend.
That was my diplomatic answer.
That was very diplomatic.
Thanks, guys. We're heading out.
But it's the truth.
A local pastor is fed up, and he's challenging the Houston homeless feeding ordinance.
And the city requires you to get a permit if you are going to share food. He can't get a permit because he doesn't know where he's going to share food.
Philip Paul Bryan regularly keeps cans of tuna and water bottles in his car to hand out to homeless people. But under the current city ordinance, he's breaking the law. His attorney says Brian does this because his faith teaches him to help the less fortunate.
This law that's in place, it's a mean-spirited law. It's against, charity. It's against kindness. It's against doing the right thing.
Eric Dick says they plan to fight this till the mayor and city officials overturn what some believe is a misguided ordinance.
Hi, this is Eric Dick, and I think it's important that you know your rights. If your homeowner's insurance company has denied or underpaid your claim, you have the right to hire an attorney. You have the right to call me for free consultation at 833-7-RIGHTS. That's 833-7-RIGHTS. Don't let your homeowner's insurance company take advantage of you. Call me today at 833-7-RIGHTS.
Has your homeowner's insurance claim been denied or underpaid? Call Dick Law Firm at 833-7-RIGHTS.
Feeding rocks. It should not be a crime to feed the homeless. Feeding rocks. A good Samaritan shouldn't be punished for acts of kindness. Feeding rocks. Because it's more of a crime to turn your back on a starving person. Feeding rocks. You shouldn't go to jail for sharing food. Feeding rocks. You can't in good conscience let a hungry person starve. Feeding rocks. Help us legalize charity. Go online and sign the petition. www.feeding.rocks. Feeding rocks.